Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Courageous Conversations. I'm Laura, your host. If you don't know me, well, welcome to the first episode that you're joining us for. Courageous Conversations is my platform for having conversations with individuals I think are living courageously, whatever that might mean to them and to myself. My pronouns are she and her, and I have the pleasure of sitting and chatting with Kerenhappuch Gandu. I know Karen because I stalked her on Instagram for a long time while she was still a student at Memorial University's Grenfell campus. And while she was studying art, I would see all the things she was posting. And I was like, I need to know what this young woman is up to. And then I got the opportunity to finally meet her in person for the first time this past weekend. If you are watching this at some other point in time in the world, it is currently February 17th, 2025. So I got to meet Karen for the first time because she was the curator for the Art of Being Black first official showcase at the Anna Templeton Center. Karen, this is how I got to know you, but let our audience know who you are and how you ended up in the space.
Oh my God, I didn't know you stopped me. I stopped you.
Yeah, I know I did my digging, girl. I dug deep.
My God. Wow. Oh, wow. My cheeks so hurt. My name is Kerenhappuch Gandu, Karen for short. I am a daughter. I am a girl. I am an artist. I like to wear many hats. I officially am like a communications and public relations officer, but I also have a heart. So like I've always had a heart for like growing in like the Black community and also making sure that there's so much inclusivity. I like to say I'm a curator, but I feel like I haven't really earned that title, but I'm trying to
I
earn
disagree.
it.
You've earned that title. I saw the work. It's earned.
I am an actor. I'm now table dabbling in set design. I'm an artist like photography, paintings, a bit of drawing. What else do I do? I feel like okay, that's it. Oh, now I'm trying to be a filmmaker. Crazy,
Because it's not enough, because you aren't doing enough already.
right? Like I just want to do something more.
So, Karen, where are you from originally for our audience?
I am originally Nigerian. Come
Okay.
from Nigeria. Yes, yes. I come from like Nigeria, four tribes, four, five different tribes actually. So I am Ari. I like.
Okay. So, I'm Nigerian too. And I always find it really cool, especially with our youth, watching people decide that they're going to post secondary to do something art based. Because I don't know about you, but my parents were not of that mind at that point in time. So I think your first courageous conversation was I'm going away to university to study art. How did that come to be for you?
That actually, that's a very, very funny story because I was in secondary school, I was in boarding school, and I was thinking about something that I wanted to do that wasn't chaotic and I wasn't going to be stressed for the rest of my life. I always loved being able to be flexible, to have a flexible life. So I loved acting so much that I see actors being able to like work for a long period of time and then have some downtime and then start again and work with so many things. And I come from a family where I see women like doing working really hard and who actually like are have an aunt who is a workaholic and I think she's crazy. But like I saw her growing grew up seeing her English. I grew up seeing her doing all of these things. And I really just wanted to be someone who was like, okay, I'm really, really busy. Me too. Right. And then I was there and I was thinking about so many things. I considered psychology. I thought I liked helping people. Turns out I maybe probably don't. And finance just made sense. My dad is a little has a lot of artistic flair to him. So I got that from him. So he didn't really have a problem with me like studying art. His problem was just me. Just don't go there and go astray. I don't want you to come back with him with like this kind of thing. But my mom said she's always had a dream for her kids to school abroad, and I'll give it up to her because she wanted me to be set. She wanted me to, just study something that I wasn't gonna question, like be out of work ever. And so she was the one who wanted me to like study economics, think about psychology, do fine art as a minor. And I was like, No. So we just kept on going back and forth for like 2 years. And somehow she was the one who looks for schools for me. She was the one who helped me apply. She was the one who said, fine, let's go do it. She narrowed down art schools in Canada. And art schools are very expensive, like full on blown, like OCAD and the rest, they're expensive. So we decided on Mon because they had a really good, she did her research, she helped me out with everything. So I'm really gonna give it to my mother because she allowed me to actually go ahead and just like fine, like art is better in Canada than studying it in Nigeria. And it's just like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then somehow I'm here, and I hope I make her proud. I feel like I did. So she called me. I was screaming and dancing in my ear, and I was like, "This woman, please, I want to see." So yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Yay, mom and dad, for giving you the space to be yourself and chase your dreams. And yay, Newfoundland and Labrador, for having the program. Because then now we get to keep you. So yay, man. Absolutely yay, man. So you moved here. So but not here as in St. John's. You went Grenfell, Corner Brook, away.
All the
Funny,
way.
funny enough, that's where I thought I was going to end up. I wanted Corner Brook, I wanted Grenfell, but I wanted it for the chalets because the apartment style chalet, that was where I was chasing. Ended up in Burton's Pond doing business, but we end up where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So for you studying art, what was it that helped solidify that this is where you were supposed to be and this is what you wanted to do?
Funny story. After my first year, I was gonna switch over to theater.
Okay.
Yeah, I was really working. I went in and I was like, can I do two majors? And at the time, they said you can do theater and fine arts. So I don't think you still can, but they were working on getting a minor, and I was going to be their first theater minor. But the process was a little long, and if I decided to take the minor classes before it was confirmed, it was a risk. But I took it. I actually did take it, but decided against it afterwards. But during that phase, there was no Black person in theater. There really is right now. And I was like, I really want to be an actor. And I went through that phase, and I thought about telling my African mother, and I was like, probably not going to work. So I tried to remember or sit with myself and try to figure out why I decided to choose fine arts. And I just chose it because I enjoy creating pieces. I feel like I swayed away from your question.
No, you're still answering my question. You're
Okay.
doing great.
Okay, great. I feel like I just went into a tangent. So, I really enjoy art because I've always been a lover of like just the colors and just the dramatics of it, and just being able to create something out of like your mind. I feel like next to God, artists are very like are mini gods. Not saying you should worship them on anything. It's just that how do you form? Well, the Bible says, God created us His image and likeness. And then artists create forms in an image and likeness that they've never thought about before. So they create human beings out of like God knows what. And like God is the ultimate painter or masterpiece, but he uses his gifts and passes it down to a lot of people. So we create like I love realism. I love the way people were blending things. I love the way people were mixing and just like turning nothing into something. And I still do. So I just wanted to be in that space. And I thought when I was going to art school, I was going to uh, learn how to draw and learn how to paint and learn how to mix colors, which you still do. But because of how the school system is set up, you don't focus on that. And that takes months, years to perfect. So you have to keep skipping and jumping to the next thing. So at a point, I hated that school.
Hey.
Yeah. At a point, I just, it's like, what on earth is this? I felt like I was doing something wrong every time. And then that part of it made me withdraw from actually creating.
Okay.
So I have partially stopped creating works and trying to get back into it. And then now I am back so I decided to just go straight into behind the scene work. Hence creation, art and mean and all of that.
Okay. So we're going to jump ahead a little bit and talk about this like curator that has now been born out in you. And I know you struggle with being called a curator, but you are. I have seen the proof of it. So you recently worked with Kelechi Brian Amadi on The Art of Being Black. For you, what was it about that project that made you want to get involved?
I like to say money
Girl, we
because
got to get
money
paid. So, yes.
exactly. But no, money, yes, but that wasn't my only reason. I feel like artists aren't even paid enough. So what made me get into this project? I don't know. I feel like Brian comes up with a new idea every 2 seconds, and getting to know him because I also have been like a big fan of his work and just stalked him. Like, hopefully one day he notices me and then we can work together. Funny to say, like he also and like watched me from all the way like in Cornerbrook, and we just when I came in, he was like, "Oh, I have this project I want you to work on," and we had a little coffee, spoke about it, gave me all his 100 ideas, and I took my pen and I busted a few bubbles because I'm like, I love that you think you can do everything with the art and admin in me. Was like, not everything is realistic, let's be honest. Especially in the span of time you want to do it. So he got me on as the creative director and told me this massive, massive idea about how he wants. And I did see the February version of it, loved it. Really glad that he decided to continue it and turn it to a whole organization. And I just thought it was something that I would love to put my name on, and I would love to like create alongside him. I feel like it was just a coffee chat, and somehow we made it work. And he was like, "Oh, I need you to do this, 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 and this," and I'm like, "Okay, this is how we're gonna do it. This is how I think is best. Let me know what you need and what you want, and we could try it because I have connections in the East Coast, in the West Coast, so it was just easy for me to like make that happen and then schedule and book and all of those kind of things. So yeah, I feel like it was a match that kind of blended. Brian and I fight a lot, but for some reason, like we blend as well. So it was a match made in heaven.
Siblings, the siblinghood you didn't know you were paying up for.
I did not expect it, but I love him all the way.
So I've gotten to see The Art of Being Black, especially the Rooted that was at the Anna Templeton. And I don't know if I told you, but as I was leaving that event, actually, while I was at the event, I was talking to Precious, who was one of the people who was photographed for this. And I told Precious that I was about to cry. Because as I sat there and I walked through everything, it was a moment for me because as someone who has lived in the province for a hot minute, we will say, a hot minute, it was amazing to see how you folks as a team work to put Black people in spaces that we don't typically find ourselves represented in. And then to see all that on the walls and to watch like the folks that you had youth, you had young adults, you had adults, like just to see the fulsome of the Black experience hold its Blackness authentically and still hold Newfoundland and Labrador in all that it is and mesh it together was just, it was heartwarming, it was emotional, it was a lot of feels. And so, like, it's been something that I have been thinking about since the exhibit. And I had a question for you.
Mhm.
As you sit here now, as someone who's been in this province for their own hot minute,
Hot minute.
who's navigated the West Coast, who's now here, what is it about being Black in this province that makes it worth being for you?
Ooh, that makes it worth being. It's a deep question.
We got time.
What's it about being Black in Newfoundland that makes it worth being? I think it's because Newfoundland has a lot of potential, and Newfoundland has a lot of like, I see it now opening its arms to more people, to making it home, and I feel like we have a potential to do that. When I first came there were quite a lot of Black people. There are a lot more Black people right now, right? And when I was in the West Coast, we all knew ourselves and we all hung out. It kind of felt like a little community that you're forced to have. But now there's so many people I like. I can choose. I don't think I like you. I think I like you. I think we can work. You know, And I don't have to smile at everybody. And that's okay because now each person isn't isolated. You now are able to choose what your unit looks like. I think being Black in Newfoundland allows me, being as a person, allows me to create a home for more people to come and actually like celebrate, enjoy, embrace, and just be. I think it's very important in the work we do to make a home for people. And that is something I have tried my best to do in both my advocacy work and just my art in general, is to push Newfoundland a little bit more. It's like you're poking someone and like, I know you can do it, just a tad bit more, you know? I think being Black in Newfoundland is a lot easier because you're not essentially chasing or fighting to be seen or fighting to be noticed or fighting this big war like other larger provinces. Newfoundland has always had a sense of home to itself, and it's very important for people, for especially for young people who leave homes at like 15, 16, 17, and don't even know what you're doing. And it feels very isolating coming at a very young age and not being able to find some sort of like community or home or, acceptance. I think being Black in Newfoundland is worth it, not just like for the short run, but for the long run as well. Because Newfoundlanders, as much as I like to think they're diverse or exposed, you're not. So pushing things in your faces and being like, I know you don't want to say this, but I think you have to. It's important you do. Because the world is going to move on with or without them. It's important that they are aware of different cultures and traditions and just experiences. And it's easy to go be blind to different people's experiences. And I think that's part of what Rooted was being able to force people to see these experiences and this like beyond being Black, we have personal identities. We are African or not. We are, and being African, we even have our own dynamic, cultures and communities. Like we are layered and layered so beautifully that we deserve to be seen, no matter how whatever layer you choose to see us, but we deserve to be seen. Like we're not just Black people here. We are someone's daughter, son, husband. We are loved at home, so it's very important being Black in Newfoundland, I would say.
Oh, I love that part of like we are loved back home because a lot of the time people think that when people immigrate to another country, it's because there's something lacking where they're coming from. And that's not the situation. Like we do not leave our homes because of a lack of love, but it's just to chase new opportunities and new spaces.
Yeah. Like I went back home one time. I'm so sorry to cut you off.
No, continue.
I went back home in 2021 because I felt drained and I needed to be reminded of why I chose this journey. I feel like Canada wasn't seeing me and was giving so much and I wasn't being seen and I needed to, I lacked like that, that love and no one was giving it to me. So I went back home just to like, to see my community and feel like I have people and the people who love me no matter what and the people who forever cheer me on and I am loved at home, right? Literally I'm loved at home. And I came back after the holiday and I was like, you know what? Anything Canada wants to trap me, I got you. I'm
Came
ready for it.
pressed, armed and ready. And so on that note, I have like a two-parter question for you. So the theme for Black History Month this year is Black legacy and leadership. And so in Canada, they're talking about celebrating Canadian history and uplifting future generations. So for you as an artist, a curator, a Black woman in the art world, how do you blend telling our stories, the ones that have happened, and create space for the new stories that are coming in this space? Like, what is it for you that makes it important to exist in this space as a Black woman and a Black artist, a Black curator, a Black art lover that allows room for the history that was made and the history that will be made?
I think the past influences the present and the future. and allows us to even go like further and be more authentic. I genuinely feel like there's a gap in Black Canadian history because we really focus on the Black history in the United States, and Canada has a part in a lot of the erasure of like Black history, the erasure of Black heart and art and heritage. And I genuinely feel like people are null and void and selectively blind to it. And one thing I think like there is the legacy we can start from now, but I really it's something I generally try to do with my own like my work is a reclamation of the past because I feel like our history is being erased, our history is being lost. Like we go ahead as a people to do something new and try something, but we don't even know where we're from. We don't know what exactly is stemming from. We don't know how we got to this point. We're just going to a point. I genuinely feel like there is a legacy to be made. And with the new generation start coming and new people who are interested in what we do, it's equally important to have what we do right now to show them the importance of who we are as a people and the lack that has been. But also, I genuinely feel there should be another part of it that makes us research, makes us go back and actually figure out if we're trying to give these people like, oh, what's this? Like children ask very, very, like, you won't even think of the question and they're just asking you serious questions. It's really important to have answers for them, I find. And when I work, I like to think in a way like a child will ask me. They ask me, oh, how do we get to this point? I want to be able to tell you, how we got to this point. I can tell you where we started from right now, but I need to tell you why we're starting from here, why it took us so long to start.
Wow.
That's what has been going through my brain for the past couple of years now, and trying to just celebrate because Canada as well now has a growing diverse history, and we celebrate the cultures and traditions that we have and sit with us right now, and it's very important that we do that. But it's very important that we equally question Canada's history and ask why we don't have Black history.
I like that. I like that thought. Now we're gonna have fun questions about art because I'm curious about all your thoughts. So like when I think art, my brain does this weird thing where it tries to balance art from like what I was taught in school in terms of like the Eurocentric version of art of the portraits and like the Mona Lisa and all of those things, and we hear about Van Gogh and all of them. And then my brain also does this really weird thing where it's just like, there's Black art. There's the steel sculptures that I remember in Nigeria. There is like even our fabrics, our art. Like, I'm just going to take a second, shout out some Black art here. So for you as an artist and a curator and all of these things, how do you do it in your brain? How do you balance like the professional learnings when you're taught about art, where you don't always see our art? And how do you now, when you do create, when you're creating again, even though you've taken a break, when you do get to create again, how do you bring yourself and the art of our people and our culture into those spaces?
Oh wow. How do I differentiate European art, Eurocentric art with Afrocentric art? Generally I just feel art made by Black person is Black art because it has to be stemmed from something. I feel like there's whatever art seems to be like some sort of celebration or reclamation of community, a Black community as people it's Afrocentric. We still use European ways of making art. We still use Europe for references. There are two artists that come to mind. Kennedy Wiley, who did a portrait of Michelle Obama. He's Nigerian as well. He does African print designs at the background and then sits his models, most of them is as in Eurocentric poses. And then he paints them in a very Eurocentric way and in like flowers or the background of, Ankara patterns and stuff. There's also Yinka Shulubare, who does exactly the same thing. He makes sculptures of royal outfits with all the neck stuff and everything in Ankara. Both them, but it's black art because this is people who try to erase our history and we're taking it back, right? We're putting ourselves in places that we're not, and then there's Titus. I forget his last name, but I know his first name is Titus. He's African American, and he makes paintings of white slave owners and just white European people who, in this same poses, and then uses a white paint and wipes them out, and it leaves like a black person in it. Yeah,
Okay.
it's something. It's
So now I'm
something.
going
And
to have to go Google this because now I need to see these pieces.
he does it in a way that is so like you only see the black person. You only see, when you see big European portraits, you see this black person in the corner. He has a habit of just like wiping everything out and leaving them and tearing the canvases. And then it's just in a way that you only see the black person, like person who is supposed to be erased, is now the highlight of it. And everything is like whitewashed.
I went and Googled as we were in the middle of this conversation, Titus Kaffar. And yes, oh my goodness, yes, I am here for this art.
So artists like that, I think they merge the two styles together, but in a way that is a reclamation. It's like you don't want to see me, but you're gonna see me. We were never here, but now we're here, kind of situation. And I think it's very beautiful that the way they do it. Each time I think about art, these are kind of like first people that come to my head. I would consider that black art because they are highlighting something that has been forced to be erased over time. Because I feel like we have internalized biases and racism, and has happened over years that it's going to take us another 400 years to come out of. But they push the edge and try to make it more visible to the eye in a very, very beautiful way. And I think we do that with the art that we try to create, especially when whatever way your art is like stemmed from or pushed from. Mine is my style is pushed, or my research and everything I do is pushed from like a lack of identity and a lack of like erased cultural identity that I am trying my best to understand better. And I think even, I don't know if you're going to classify it as African art, but it is black art. It is like a way of taking back. So much has been taken from us. Oh my God, so much has been taken. Our religion, our peace of mind, our history, everything that's been taken. And just any form of trying to take back, in no matter how tiny way, I think is very important. Like, oh, that's black art. If you see it and it just makes you warm and gives you peace, bruh, that's black joy. So yeah, black art is in the tiniest things.
So I'm going to poke your brain a little bit about a piece of art that we all got to watch happen live recently. The Super Bowl piece of art. No joking. Because like typically when people are thinking art, they think like the paintings and the sculptures. But then there's living art. There is the living art that we all got to see come to life. So what did you feel if you watched it, or if you saw clips of it? What was your reaction to that whole performance? We'll put Drake aside because we're not even going to worry about Drake in that piece of art. But in the entirety
of... he was a contributor, though. If you think about it.
He was a contributor. He was. Hey, Drake. It was a whole moment. Yeah. So what did you feel when you if you watched the whole thing or if you just saw pieces of it? What was your gut reaction watching that come to?
I think it was, first thing I think it was very, very funny. I think the performance was just like, it was just funny to watch. It was, I'm not versed with music, but I think like the mix and the way he did it was well in terms of, the set and costume. I'm like, now that I go on TikTok and I see what they were trying to do, it makes sense. Sometimes the art, you have to go dig a little deeper for it to make sense. And it does make sense. I know people say like the performance was probably mid or whatever, which is fair. But when you add like the layers of the history of the United States and what they were trying to do with Uncle Sam and some of the words he was using and how he played around with his music, like it begins to question like your intellect, and you begin to see things in a very different way. And I think in as much as wearing the United States colors on set makes no sense, it made sense. It made sense. So that's what I think. I think it's a performance that made sense. But you have to dig a little deeper. You have to, what people say, open your third eye to see it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
You have to be very like cautious of United States Black history for you to fully understand the depth of it. Yeah.
Hey. See, I wanted to get your take on it because I didn't watch the Super Bowl because I am an old lady and I go to bed at a certain time and it was up past my bedtime.
I didn't watch it either.
But when I got to watch the thing of it, immediately I was taken back by it. You did this. You did this where now they can all see, okay, so like these are the jokes we make in community and these are the things we say in community. But you took our
Yeah.
community joke and you said you're all going to sit and listen to it now.
In this class, we're all participants.
Literally, it was not even like we do our homework on the side. It's like, oh no, you are all forced to participate today.
In this.
Then watching the feedback from community who didn't understand it had me sitting there being like, okay. Like when you go into a museum or gallery, when you see impressionist art versus portrait art, when portrait art, you know what you're supposed to get out of it. Abstract art, you're sitting there and I can say there are times I look at abstract art and I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel here. But then I
That's okay.
realize the problem isn't the art. The problem is where am I in my journey in relation to the art? So
Oh.
getting to watch reactions to this, I was like, when people are like, oh no, this wasn't the performance, I was like, oh no, it was the performance. You're just not ready to see this art kind of thing. And so I wanted to get your take on it as to, did you think community was ready to see this art? And now that they've seen it, are they ready to digest it?
I think the Black community is, we're even in denial half the time. Ready to digest it, only few will be ready, a few are ready. I think the work that has to be done is so massive that people are like very comfortable with the norm. You had a first version of the question and I lost it.
Okay.
I lost my train of thoughts, Karen. Yeah, the is the community ready for it? We should have been ready a long time ago, if we're being honest. We just don't want to. We're like, we are selectively blind, like one eye open. And we have also been conditioned to see things as like fun in games. That when things are now serious, we're not ready, like we haven't prepared for it. So we automatically make things a joke. But it's not a joke, right? Like we all expected Kendrick to go on stage and have fun and play around and diss Drake, which he did. But like then you see layers saying that, okay, I know we're here for this, but there's something bigger on the table and you need to see it. Hence why a lot of people call it mid. Hence why people will see, like, first of all, they will see it as too serious for such a fun example, for such a fun place. But the community should have been ready, should be ready, needs to be ready. In fact, if they don't want to join us, drag them by the hair, by their braids and your weaves. We need to be ready, because you can't keep going into the next generations. You have to be. We have to be honest.
So with that in mind, do you see art in whatever form it shows up, either print, visual art, theatrical? Do you see that as a form or as a method of revolution?
Yes, it's a massive method of revolution. Absolutely. We're trying to reclaim the past. It's something that has been so erased from history that people don't want you to see. Right now, I'm researching on my cultural heritage and I cannot find any piece of history on Google. And it's so frustrating. So, yes, I think art is very important in trying to reclaim history because that's easiest way for us to digest things. Now we live in a world where people's attention span is very short. You have to now mix things, like you have to hypnotize them in a very different way. Hypnotize in a very good way, using the good terms. But yeah, art, I think in itself is revolutionary. I think Black art specifically is revolutionary.
I really like that thought process in terms of like even now in you doing the research and trying to find your own history and struggling to find it. Because like when I think of like our Nigerian culture, like the broader Nigerian culture and the aspects that we get told about, the aspects that we get to see. Like I'm reading and listening to Chiamanda's book, Half of the Yellow Sun, because like through my Black History Month, it's one of my books to learn about it. And then so as someone who is Nigerian but Igbo, the Biafra war and all of that was this thing that happened in my like that's it happened.
But it didn't happen so long ago, though.
That's the thing.
It happened like 50, 40 years ago or
Not
something like that.
like in the 60s. Like I like to conceptualize this thing the same way I can look at the 60s to disco era and see that as recent. But when they talk about the Biafran War, I see it as this pre thing, and then trying to piece it together in my own brain to see this as part of my history, my story, whether or not I knew it, but now I'm being forced to know it. And just to think about what aspects of my culture were lost in that. And because there's one character in the book named Richard, who is from Europe, the UK, and moved to Nigeria specifically for Igbo art. He moved specifically to find pieces of art and to talk about the history of that. And these are pieces of art that I had no idea about. I didn't know that there was this Western idolization of our art, but in a colonial, let's appropriate and take from that way. But we were just treating it as, this is us, on to the next.
Which is great, because like, yeah, you don't really see something as art if it's your everyday life. You don't appreciate something until it's gone, which is fair enough. But we also live in a very oral, like our history is very oral.
Yeah.
And people are dying.
Yes, they are.
People are dying. We need to get up. I need these things written down because I don't speak my language. I don't know. I can barely speak Hausa. And I need to learn. I need us to move this on really quick. And when I was doing research for the film I'm working on, it's the books I was given were written by German people, and I'm like, German.
You're missing. There are things that be missing from it.
People, because he can only write from his lens and what he see and what they see, and you can choose to omit things. It's not authentic. It's not the story. It's what someone chooses to tell me. And I need it told as it is. It's no more like Tales and Moonlight. The moonlight is gone.
Literally.
I need it written down. And it's very unfortunate because we tell the stories by mouth all the time, that it begins to feel very distant. And the more you repeat it, the more it's lost. You omit pieces, you omit a lot of things, and it's not full anymore. And the one who, like, part that is full, somehow is buried in someone's basement, and we don't know how to get it. We're sitting on so much history that we don't even know, and it's honestly, it's frustrating. I'm not gonna lie, it's so frustrating.
So how would you see solving this issue in terms of how do we get these things documented in a way that it gets to live on for multiple generations? Because people are dying, as you said.
I think it's time to sit with our grandparents and talk to them. That's what I have tried to do, is to sit and talk and hold. I think in my research on history and stuff, it's I found out more about my culture than my mom actually did, and I have gone to places that she didn't even think of doing. And I've done, like, I want to be part of things that she's like, she doesn't want to be part of. And I think, like, no one is saying leave Jesus behind. Like, it's important to have a desire to hold onto memories and to hold onto things, because now we're looking for the next quick fix. We're looking for the next big break, big viral break. But it's very important for us to actually sit with the older generation and hold onto whatever memory they have, because people who experience the Biafra War are still alive. And only them can tell their story, because only them have lived it. and we're losing the story. We're losing like our traditional way of doing things. Like we have traditional tattoos, and we go and write Chinese inscriptions on our back. It's very important for us to sit like within ourselves and actually question who we are and like who we've been conditioned to be, and who we need to be. Because if my mom can't speak my language, her language, I can't speak my language. If I decide to have kids, they're on their own.
As a mom, I can tell you how important that becomes because I'm very lucky. I will say that my parents taught me my language first. Now, do I speak it? Am I capable of speaking it? Yes. Do I speak it? No, because I struggle with this idea of it sounds wrong with the Canadian accent. There's a part of me that's like, this sounds tainted, this sounds appropriated when it shouldn't.
You will be laughed at, but
Absolutely. And then I have a son who's like, Mommy, I want to learn your Spanish. And so in my brain, he's like, he notices there's a difference in language, but the only other languages he knows are English and French and Spanish. So to him, if it's not English and it's not French, well, then it's mommy's Spanish. And then we have to sit there like, it's not mommy's Spanish. Me and Dora are not of the same people. Love her, but we're not the same. But then trying, so like he's in French immersion, so he's learning French. He's speaking English at home, but now there's like, I have to make an intentional effort to give him Igbo so it doesn't get lost. Because like my brothers don't speak it. And so there you can see in those situations where we're with friends or with family friends and they're speaking to them, and my brother's like, I need you to switch it up because I'm not understanding you. And then you watch older generations who struggle with English not be able to get their point across. And then there's this now cultural divide and a cultural divide on generation, not on cultural identity. And it's a weird thing to see.
it comes with patience. Like we generally have to be patient. We need to beg God for his divine patience because it comes with so much patience because older people are slow. We know that older people are but they have so many stories to tell. And on the documentary film I'm working on, I interview like a lot of older generation. And you'll be surprised the number of people who were ready to go ham. They just want to have a conversation. They're ready to live in lost tales. And I had someone go on for like 2 hours, and I'm like, I love that you're doing this, but I'm only going to use 15 minutes. 15 minutes of your time is all I need. But they're ready to, and you notice that they don't really have a lot of people to tell these stories. And it doesn't come to them to write because they think no one wants to read it.
Yeah.
And then it's lost. And I come from 5 tribes. There's only have so many languages I can learn how to speak at my big age, but it's very sad because we have lost a lot of cultures are going extinct and we don't even know. And there's no one that will save us except us. And we literally just need to sit down and think, literally, like that's just it.
I love that. But no one will save us but us. And so it's on us to kind of figure out what tools we need to do that and then actually put them into.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't have a tribal name. People ask me all the time, what's your Nigerian name? I was like,
Okay.
non-existent, maybe.
It's a time to call mom and dad and say, give me
Right?
another one, add one.
Right? I do have one that comes from my late grandmother, but I always was conditioned to think that it was just a name that she called me, but it's not on my birth certificate. It's not anywhere for me to, recognize. And for me, for someone who comes from so many different tribes, I should have one for each tribe, and I don't see anything. So what are we doing here?
So do you mind sharing what your grandmother used to call you, which is your name?
She used to call me Ishu.
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 Yes, Ashio.
And do you know what it means? Okay, so I guess we got homework now.
Now we have homework.
To
We have to figure it out.
To find out what it means. So I got you for about 10 more minutes before I let you go back into your day, into your world. If you could surmise what you would want people to get out of this conversation we've had, either about art, about our Blackness, about our cultural identities and navigating the future, What would you want them to know?
Oh, I would want them to. I think we need a bit more quiet time. I think we're very, very quick to talk and make a jest of everything, but there's only so many jokes that will take you to heaven. We need a little bit of a quiet time, like time out sometime. It's time to be more aware of your environment, of your being, of your history, just more aware of yourself as a person. People have some are now on the journey of like self-love and self-discovery, and there is no self without your history. There's no self without what has brought you to this point. I think it's time to pick up a black book, because a lot of novels are fiction, but they have truth to them. I like to think that every form of art has a piece of truth to it, even though it's like it's inspired by something. It might be, a story their grandmother told them, or it might be something as little as their childhood crush who made the way into the book, or it's now the antagonist. But there's always a piece of truth to it. And I genuinely think we need to talk less and sip more. And the work we do is very important. The work everyone does is very important. Well, maybe not everybody, but the work we do in the Black world is very important. And literally, I'm tired of fighting. There's only so much fight I can do as one person. There's only so much fight you can do as one. At what point you retire from the fight, And we need people to be more self-sufficient in their fight. That's what I want people to take away from it. Just quiet time, naughty corner.
Naughty corner. Well, I saw you in the corner at the thing, but that was your quiet time. So the last question I have for you. So it's Courageous Conversations, and you have been very courageous and open in the things you have shared with me over this hour. So if you're
I'm
going,
a yapper.
Girl, I'm on a podcast, so clearly I like the yapping too. I'm out here voice sounding straggly as ever, but we're gonna yap anyway because it's important. So with this being Courageous Conversations, if you were to inspire people to have one courageous conversation in their day, week, month, at the end of this podcast, after their quiet time, and after they've done that listening in and figuring out self, what's the courageous thing you're inspiring them to do?
I think everyone is creative in their own right. I find people who say, "Oh, I'm not a very artsy person," but you are. I think God gave us all a sense of level of creativity. I think it's very important to dig deep into it. So that idea that you've been thinking about, that's very cool. Ironic for me to say, because I have so many ideas I haven't. But that idea you're sitting on, or that little thing you want to try, that color you want to buy, I think ordering it or doing it, it's courageous enough. Sometimes you don't even need to, like, you can be courageous within yourself. It doesn't have to be an exchange with someone else. It has to start from inside to come out. The thought you've been hiding in your head, it's time to open it. Tell someone. Because I personally analyze a lot of things, and I have so many like thoughts on a lot of things. But I just sit and I just I sit with it. I don't say it out. Or maybe this is my time to tell people what I think. With respect, obviously.
Girl, if you catch the smoke, you catch the smoke.
Well, if you're in the line of fire, sorry. But yeah, I think more courageous conversation you should have is be more you, I guess. Yeah. Do it afraid. Do it nonetheless.
And I'm so glad that I followed you on Instagram all those years ago. I'm so glad that you moved into town and that you agreed when this random woman asks you, "Hey, do you want to come on my podcast?" I'm so glad you agreed.
You're not random anymore.
I'm not. Well, for me, I could have been random. To you, I wasn't random anymore. I had creeped enough deep into your world to not be random. But when someone asks you to step into this space, because you could have said no. So thank you for being courageous enough to come here and be open and have these conversations about art and self and existence and just identity so wholesomely with me.
On that note, maybe that's the courageous thing that someone can take away. Say yes to that thing.
Say yes when Laurabel asks you to do.
Not that man.
Not that man to the thing, to that opportunity.
The opportunity. Say yes to it. because so they don't mix it.
Do it for the plot. We do it for the plot.
Yeah, life is short.
But thank you so much, Karen. It has been fantastic. For all our listeners, this is Kerenhappuch Gandu. She is an artist, a curator, a light, and just a wonderful person to chat with. Check her out on her socials. If you are in St. John's, Newfoundland, and you are here in February up until the end of March, I believe the showcase is, check out the Anna Templeton Center on Duckworth Street. You get to see the Art of Being Black, see what Karen and Brian and the Art of Being Black team put together. It is a wonderful exhibition. See Black people exist in spaces that you don't typically find them, but they are very much deserving of being in. Make sure to check out our other podcast episodes. We have a ton more coming up, and I will catch you on our next Courageous Conversation. Thanks, folks.
Yay.